Hello, I'm Sheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York. Welcome to One to One. Each week, we address issues of timely and timeless concern with newsmakers and the journalists who report on them, with artists, writers, scientists, educators, social scientists, government leaders. We speak with each one to one. I'm delighted to welcome Eva Bornstein, Executive Director of the Lehman Center for the Performing Arts. It's been a mecca for art lovers, not only from the Bronx, but from other boroughs, as well as from Westchester, New Jersey, and Connecticut. The mix is eclectic, as are the audiences. We'll learn how she's brought new art back home. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, you grew up in Poland
Yes.
under communism.
Yes.
What was that like, and how did the arts fit into that kind of society?
Well, the communist government used the performing arts in particular for their propaganda. So there was a strong support for the arts to the extent that the ticket prices were very affordable. And so, for example, everyone in Poland had easy access to ballet companies, theater companies, etc. And the problem was a little complex one because it put responsibility on the actors and performers not to be used for propaganda purposes. So the actors became celebrities in a way because they were the voice of the people of Poland.
Mm-hmm.
And they very often fooled the government, pretending to project their message, which in fact they weren't. So you had to become sort of like an intellectual to understand what really actors and dancers you had to
say.
yes,
Right.
you had to pay attention.
Uh-huh.
So when
For the hidden message.
for the hidden message.
Okay.
Exactly. So when you went to see a theater, very often the actors would make a gesture or something indicating what exactly they're saying without spoken word.
So they were subversives.
They were very subversive.
Okay.
It was a very interesting, actually performing arts was the only interesting aspect of life and growing up in a communist government.
So when did you leave Poland? Why, and where did you go?
Well, I was a young actress in Poland. I went to the Krakow famous theater school, and I was determined to become famous actress in Poland. Of course, life makes changes for you. As I was 18 years of age, a dean of visual arts asked me to come to his office and gently suggested that I join the Communist Party. Of course, there was no such thing as gently suggesting. Basically, you had no choice. You either joined the Communist Party or your career was destroyed. So I realized that I had to make, at the age of 18, I had to make very tough choice. Either I leave the country or I become propaganda machine in the hands of the government. So fortunately for me, a foreign director, there were many foreign directors who looked for actresses and actors from the Higher School of Drama in Krakow. So he chose me to do a film in Paris, and I went to Paris on a visa, and I never returned.
Okay, so Paris and London and finally to Canada.
Finally to Canada. The reason I went to Canada is because Canada offered, specifically York University in Toronto, offered a special degree in arts administration. And I want to become a professional arts administrator. And I took that course and I've graduated from it and became executive director of a large performing arts center in Canada.
At age 24.
At the age of 24.
How did you manage that?
That was right after my graduation. I was very lucky that I got a full-time job, very responsible job at that age. And I've been going ever since.
You have been. You got married to a conductor.
Yes.
You met in Canada?
Actually, I met the conductor in New York.
Okay.
On one of my visits to New York.
And you wound up moving, and he was working near Chicago, right?
He became a music director of an orchestra near Chicago. And so I became executive director of the Woodstock Opera House, which is located near Chicago.
I'm looking at some of your previous positions. You had that one. You were executive director of the, is it the Zollner Arts Zollner Arts Center at Lehigh University, yes. Executive director of the Kirkland Fine Arts Center at Millikan University, executive director of the Bergen Performing Arts Center in Englewood, New Jersey, and you've been executive director of the Greenwich Choral Art Society and the Fairfield Orchestra, both in Connecticut. I mean, well, what are the qualifications for heading up an art center?
You know, the qualifications now become more complex. As the society becomes more complex, our responsibilities to our society become more complex. So it takes someone with a lot of courage. It takes someone with extensive knowledge of performing arts, because you have to make tough choices. You have to decide who performs and who doesn't. You have to integrate with your community. You have to be a spokesperson for that community and for your center. And you have to get along pretty well with everyone, from board of directors, audiences, your staff. So the constituents are enormous, and the responsibility becomes more enormous as our lives become more and more complex.
And you hit the ground running at age 24, and you've been running, you know, you started at a high level.
Yes.
And kept going.
I kept going, and my mission was always to enhance the quality of life in the community that I sort of represented through my position. So I always try to give audiences something refreshing, something educational, and something entertaining. So I knew that I had to combine several things to make a success story. And that I always, whenever I interviewed for these positions, they always ask me, how do you do programming? Explain to us, how do you put a program together? And I always said, you know, it's like cooking dinner. You have to have all the right ingredients. You have to have a little dessert. You have to have a main course. You have to have entree. And it all has to fit together so you don't get sick.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And you enjoy it.
That's what I would have said. It's like cooking dinner.
This is exactly what it is.
You've been at the Lehman Center how long?
This is my 6th season.
Okay. It's housed at Lehman College on the campus, and started out, I guess, in 1980, like many college art centers, as a venue primarily for long hair, what we call long hair entertainment, the New York Philharmonic, the opera. But that had changed by the time you took over.
That had changed because the demographics of the Bronx have changed. Performing arts centers really represent the community. If a director does a good job, they represent your constituents, because you cannot really program for yourself. That's not what your mission is. You know, you have to put your tastes aside, listen to your audience, and present something meaningful for them.
Is the Lehman Center, is it to the Bronx what BAM is to Brooklyn?
Absolutely. I mean, BAM, in all due respect, has been very, very supported and very, very experimental and unbelievable, unbelievable center. They have made enormous name for themselves. I'm hoping that we will down the road, this is our 30th anniversary season, I'm hoping that we grow up one of these days to be like the Apollo Theater and BAM. Mm-hmm. We nowhere near the celebrity that BAM has produced from Brooklyn, but we're hoping to get there one day.
Is the Lehman Center supported by the college? What kind of connection, other than being on campus?
Yes.
What's its connection to the college?
Well,
or is it its own independent entity?
Actually, we are very, very proud to be part of CUNY University. because that allows us access to the media, such as this one, and it allows us access to professors, young people. So intellectually, the resources are enormous. In addition, we are sort of public relations arm of the college. We represent the college mission of providing service to the community. So that's where our connection is. We don't necessarily have the academic connection.
Right.
But we do represent their mission of producing cultural programming for the entire community, not just for students,
right.
not just for academia, but for anyone, like you described at the beginning of the program, for anyone wishing to participate.
How about financial support? Do you get any of that from CUNY, or is it all, do you raise your own or money?
Well, as you know, the financial support for the cultural institutions is becoming a big problem because not only the city of New York has cut cultural events, well, they're closing fire stations, they getting rid of teachers,
right,
senior centers. So we can't really complain. But the support from Department of Cultural Affairs has diminished for us from 400,000 to 75,000. So it's a drastic cut.
Right.
The only reason I bring the numbers is to show you what kind of diminished financial support the cultural institutions are facing. College has been very supportive. Lehman College, especially the president of our college, has been attending events, has taken time to write me a thank you note when it's deserved, and also sometimes write me a negative note.
Right.
So he's very hands-on president.
Does most of your money come from private sources?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Most of our money really comes from donations from corporations, from JP Morgan Chase, for example, is our very strong supporter, has been for many years. Con Edison just recently gave us little money to make the tickets affordable for children, to make them $10. That's just an example. We also receive support from the foundations and from individuals, from our own board of directors. And of course, ticket sales.
Right.
Our earned income is very important to us.
Mm-hmm. We're going to take a short break, then we'll be back with more with Eva Bornstein, Executive Director of the Lehman Center for the Performing Arts, after this message.
Yeah. That's it.
To be perfect to be a perfect parent. When you adopt a child from foster care, just being there makes all the difference.
Welcome back to One to One. I'm Sheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York, and I'm talking with Eva Bornstein, Executive Director of the Lehman Center for the Performing Arts. I was looking at your schedule for the current season. The Russian National Ballet, Forever Freestyle, which seems like a combination of sort of rap and hip-hop kind of music. Okay. The Temptations, the Paul Taylor Dance Company, a Latino series, the Venice Baroque Orchestra, Johnny Mathis. Very eclectic.
Very eclectic.
How do you decide which performers to bring to the center?
It's a very painful process because I would like to bring every performer in the world and give that opportunity to an artist. So the choices are very difficult to make. Basically, our series that we put together is divided into 4 sections. Forgot the S at the end. The first one, very important one, is the international series. That's the cultural programming. We call it cultural programming. And we try to represent different communities that live in New York. For example, this season we brought the Polish orchestra from Poland. We also brought the national Polish ensemble. We are now going to bring the National Ballet of Russia from Moscow. So we try to reach every ethnic community we possibly can reach in one season. Then we have our Latino series, which is dedicated to our own residents of the Bronx. Then we have celebrity series. This is where we bring Temptations. This is to sort of spice up the dinner. This is where the pepper comes in, salt and pepper and some spice. So overall, the series is very mixed bag, but it's designed to appeal to wide audiences. We happen to have a very large auditorium, 2,300 seats, which in this day and age, it's difficult to fill with all this disruption that we have, the cell phones, the Blackberries, the TVs, the videos that we can watch. So to attract people to come to a live performance is not that simple.
Yeah, yeah. With these, you got some high-end performers. So how could the center afford to bring them, and sort of what's your ticket price structure?
Our ticket prices have to be reasonable because Bronx is one of the poorest boroughs, if not here, around the country even. So we cannot overprice our tickets. However, you know, we're very fortunate that the performances that come, such as Johnny Mathis, Jose Feliciano, and numerous others, they really take this into consideration. They have a certain responsibility to their public, and they reduce their fees for us. They make it possible to appear in front of the Bronx audiences. And our audiences is so enthusiastic and so genuine that it sort of pays back.
Who's in your audience?
Our audience is becoming more and more diverse. For example, during the National Ballet, which we're going to present shortly, we're going to be doing Romeo and Juliet. You will find a Polish language heard. You can hear Polish language spoken, Russian, Latino, Chinese. It's amazing. This is how diverse the audience has become. And not only that, it's diverse nationality-wise, but also age-wise. We are getting more and more children attending the performances. And we have generations. We have the grandmother, we have the mother and father, and we have their child. So I'm very proud that our audiences are really becoming interesting audiences, very mixed.
You said in an article in the New York Times that you knew nothing about Latin music when you got to the center, yet you were surrounded by it. How did you fill the gap in your education about Latino
enormous
culture?
Gap. Enormous gap. Well, you know, you accept responsibilities and then you have to live up to it. So I immediately engage in conversation with local producers, with local media and beyond. I read, I listened, I tried to listen to as many salsa bands as I possibly could. I spoke to a lot of local producers that advised me, you know, this group is attracting younger crowd. This group is really for the older crowd. This artist, here's his bio, here's his CD. So I listened. I had to expose my own mind to their culture so that I could represent it well for them.
Tell me about El Gran Combo.
El Gran Combo. Well, it's a funny story because as I embarked on this position at Lehman Center, I took a little vacation in Puerto Rico. I purposely chose Puerto Rico because culture is their food, how they live, how they enjoy life. I had to observe it to really understand it. So I went to this wonderful resort, and here it was a band playing called El Gran Combo. And I spoke to one of the band leaders, and I said, El Gran Combo, who are you, and why are you so loved by the Puerto Ricans? And this gentleman said, well, we are the oldest band, and we are the founders of salsa music.
Ah.
So this is like the most prestigious band of Puerto Rico. It's like if we were to make comparison, it would be perhaps like the New York Philharmonic of Puerto Rico in popular culture, because they invented certain way of playing music, and they have been copied by other musicians. So they are the grandfathers of salsa, and this is what you hear on the radio today. And they started it. So, of course, immediately, I wanted them to be part of the Bronx. And so they have been coming every year, selling out 2 performances.
Wow.
Which amounts to 5,000 people in one weekend. And they're very much loved. Every year they come back and people want to hear
How big a
sound.
group are they?
They're not very big. They're about 20 musicians.
Oh, that's
maybe,
pretty big.
You know. But their sound is amazing. It's beautiful sound, and it comes from their soul. You know, it's like jazz.
Right.
You know,
Right.
whoever invented jazz should be revered to this day because it's a new form of music and art form that has reached so many.
Do you have programs for children, especially for children, or?
We do. You know, our programming for children is a little complex. I don't believe, I don't believe in mother and father talking gibberish to their babies. I don't believe that you necessarily have to have children programs. So I expose my children to classics, such as Nutcracker, for example, such as Romeo and Juliet. And so it's a little bit more sophisticated.
Right.
Savion Glover, for example. So it's not a specific children's series. Unfortunately, we had to cut our young people series due to budget cuts, but we used to have young people series, which was funded by the Department of Cultural Affairs, where we presented adult companies, such as Ailey Dance Company,
Right.
to high school students. And the nice way about how kids responded to Ailey Company was that they whistle. They didn't clap. They whistle like in a rock concert. For me, that was very amusing and endearing.
What advice would you give to college students who might be interested in a career in arts administration?
Well, my advice to all students is that you have to have your eyes and ears open. Don't limit yourself, for example, to a job that is on surface very prestigious, but really doesn't give you opportunity to grow. As far as my position at Lehman Center, it has been very rewarding because it allowed me to make a difference in the community. It's not someone else can create a position, but you as a young person will have, if you take challenging position, you will have opportunity to change the world. And that's the advice. If you can change the world for the better, for your community, for your children, for whoever, keep that in mind. Don't be motivated by money, by prestige, how important you are. Be motivated how much change, positive change, you can make in the world. And the money and prestige will follow.
Should they get do you recommend they get a master's degree in arts administration? Is that imperative?
Really, I really don't believe. If you have opportunity to take master's degree, by all means. But I come from a practical way of living. In other words, my experience has been very hands-on. As you can see from my resume,
But you did get a master's degree.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
You can get your degree, but this is not where you're going to learn
Okay.
your job. Your job, you really learn in the world. And the world keeps changing all the time. And you need to be adaptable to those changes. For example, Bronx has changed. The whole demographics have changed. And if you don't have someone flexible to notice that and go with the flow, you fail.
Right.
So.
Very interesting about an area I think, people don't necessarily think a lot about, know much about,
Yes.
You've given us some insight into it,
Thank
and I
you.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
We're out of time. I want to thank Eva Bornstein for joining us today. If you'd like information on upcoming programs, log on to the website at lehmancenter.org. For the City University of New York and 1-to-1, I'm Sheryl McCarthy.